Earlier this year in a chapel at Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary, President Danny Akin said, and let me quote him exactly, he said, "I've been teaching in either a Bible college or seminary now for over 30 years. When I teach hermeneutics, one of the things I point out is that none of us is a blank slate when it comes to interpreting the Bible. We all come to the Bible," he said, "with a particular perspective, presuppositions, and a particular worldview." Now, at that point, Dr. Akin, he described his own worldview by invoking his identity as a white Southern male. He said, "I'll say something like this. Danny Akin cannot help that he comes to the Bible as a white male, married, who comes from the deep South, who has rock-solid convictions and commitments about the supernatural worldview, about inerrancy and infallibility of the Bible, and is committed to Orthodox Christianity." Dr. Akin proceeded to contrast his white Southern male approach to the Bible with approaches from those with a different worldview, particularly that of a lesbian woman. He said, quote, "I suspect that I read the Bible differently than, say, a lesbian woman of a different ethnicity who lives up in the Northwest and is committed to a pantheistic worldview way of thinking." He then declared none of that has anything to do with critical theory or intersectionality. It simply has to do with the recognition, he said, that when it comes to the interpretive process, yes, there's an author and a text, but there's also a reader, and readers come to the text with ways of already thinking. However, if you listened closely to Dr. Akin's words, he mixes the influences of what he believes, that is inerrancy in Orthodox Christianity, with his identity as a white Southern male. And in his contrasting example, he doesn't merely speak of the individual's pantheistic worldview, but he identifies the individual as a Northwestern woman of a different ethnicity. Dr. Akin implies that there's a particular way that white Southern males read the Bible, as opposed to Northwestern black lesbians. And while he's correct that we all have biases that can influence us, the problem is he imports race and gender identities into the discussion of knowledge. I highly doubt that Dr. Akin has been using that kind of identity language for the entire 30 years he's been teaching hermeneutics and talking about biases. So while he claims that critical theory and intersectionality aren't influencing him, the reality is that his choice of words are the essence of what's known as positionality, which is a fundamental tenet of intersectionality. Dr. James Lindsay writes about this, and I quote, "Positionality is the notion that personal values, views, and location in time and space influence how one understands the world. One's gender, race, class, and other aspects of identities act on the knowledge a person has about things. One's gender, race, class, other aspects. Male, white, Southern." Whatever Dr. Akin realizes or not, whether he realizes it or not, the language that he employs was spawned by critical theory and intersectionality advocates. The child, if you will, is known as Standpoint Epistemology. Being from Tennessee, I had to look that up. And I'm not joking. That's the belief, Standpoint Epistemology is the belief that knowledge is derived from the lived experience of different identity groups. Now, this brainchild was birthed from the mating of a radical feminist idea and critical race theory's interpretation of Michel Foucault's postmodern ideas about how dominant discourses shape truth. Objective knowledge, that is, truth for everyone, no matter what your identity, is something that really can never be obtained.